If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.
Sandra, are you okay?
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm just fine. Welcome to the Kay Files, everybody. We have Lindell Kay and myself this morning, and a good show for you. Going to talk about a whole lot, but first thank our sponsors, Carolina Wiring Service, Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, and Statewide Insurance Group. Appreciate all of them.
Sure, and can I say something?
Yes, you can.
I seen the commercial for Dark Side Estates.
Yes, I'm scared.
My wife's a huge horror fan.
Really?
She loves horror movies. She watches them all the time. She makes me watch them. Can't sleep at night. But she's never been to a haunted house ever. And I took her last year. Me and the kids went to Dark Side Estates, and it scared the bejesus out of her.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't believe she made the clown place, and there's the one where
clown is freaky.
When you're in the dark and you have to find your way through the place in the. I mean, she was. Folks, if you want to be scared,
yes,
that scared me. Yeah, absolutely. It got my heart going. That's for sure.
It will do it. So, anyway, what's on tap for today?
Speaking of scary people, the General will be on here in segment 2 and 3 to talk about things. General Gordon Bray, he is the chairman of the Team Cold Case, and he will be here to explain kind of what we've done so far and where we're going, and then we got some other stuff to talk about. And then I wanted to show a couple of these things that our partner Fighting Crime is doing. She's got some postcards that she's circulating through the neighborhood.
Yeah, she brought those to me. Look at that. They look very nice.
This is the case out in Edgecombe County at the party where 2 gentlemen were killed and 60 people were there and nobody saw a thing. So there's that one where she's trying to get some numbers in, and then this one has a list of all the unsolved murders in this area that's going out. And I think what she's doing is great. I think you know, it's there's a reason that candidates spend a lot of money on mailers.
Yes.
Because they are effective.
Yeah, they are.
You know,
and if you look at that list. Did you see that list?
There's a lot of names on there.
A lot of names.
And you know, I mean, the good thing about the mailers is that the post office, you can set like an area code, or you can set a area that you want the postcards to go to, and they're going directly to them. So it's not wasted. You know, you're going directly to the people that are in that neighborhood.
Right.
So I think something might come out of that. She's really doing a good job with that.
Yes, she is.
All right. So today, I don't know how many times I've explained this, but I want to kind of break down what a cold case is, right? So in a cold case, you got three kinds, right? I mean, you can really kind of get into the weeds and break it down into more, but basically there's three kinds. There's unsolved murder, missing people, and unidentified body.
Right.
Unsolved murder is where law enforcement has a body and it's obviously been murdered. I mean,
they don't know who did it.
Right. You got a bullet hole. You got a knife wound. You got strangulation. You've got evidence of even like sometimes when you find a skeleton in the woods, there may be no evidence of foul play, but you wonder how it got there. Why is the for instance, like we talked about last week, why is there a 4-year-old girl in the woods? So okay, so then in a missing persons case, that's obviously someone who's missing, right? So there's different kinds of those cases as well. You've got children, you get the Amber Alerts and whatnot, but in a cold case, an adult has disappeared from their life under suspicious circumstances or otherwise. A lot of times missing persons cases end up where the person just didn't want to be there. They and there's nothing illegal about someone leaving their life behind. Any adult can just pick up and leave without telling anybody where they're going.
That's exactly right.
And a lot of these cases end up just that, where it's not a missing persons case per se. It's just a person left.
That's right.
Okay, so then the one that I find myself gravitating to more and more lately is the unidentified bodies.
Right.
And the reason why is because in an unsolved murder, law enforcement is heavily involved in that.
Right.
Honestly, I mean, it's their case. They're working that case.
Right.
They're gonna they're always working that case.
And we just talked about one of those.
That's right.
The 4-year-old.
That's right. And then in a missing persons case, there are plenty of groups out there, organizations out there, the Q group down there in Wilmington. There's plenty of groups that help find missing people.
Sure it is. Yes.
But one thing that is really just kind of falls through the cracks all the time, and that is unidentified bodies. For a couple different reasons. One reason is we don't always know if there was foul play involved. You find a body in the woods. It could have been a homeless person. As a matter of fact, I know there's a few cases. Wow, they're mowing the lawn outside.
Yeah. There's
a few cases where we know that it's a homeless person just from the clothes and the circumstances. So trying to identify. There's a case that I keep working on in Raleigh of a homeless man that was found dead behind the store a few years ago. Identifying that guy is going to be next to impossible.
Right.
Because who knows? A homeless person could have come from Texas or California, or who knows where they came from to get here. Okay, so I think that unidentified body cases are special to me because it just seems like nobody else is really looking into them, and this is a good example right here.
So many times.
Right. There was a skeleton found in Lee County in July, and I had a hard time trying to find anybody who knew anything about it. The local media didn't know about it. The law enforcement didn't really consider it that big a deal. I think they figured it was just like I said, a homeless person who wandered into the woods,
Right.
And there's not really a case there for them. because they're not going to expend a lot of tax dollars trying to figure out who somebody is.
Exactly.
You know, but then the way I figure it though is, I mean, it's somebody's. It's definitely somebody's child.
It is.
Right. So no matter who it is, whether they're 0 to 100, they were somebody's
They
child.
were somebody's child. That's
And
exactly
then-
right. Perhaps somebody's brother or sister.
Right,
Perhaps
exactly.
somebody's grandmother.
There you go.
Perhaps, I mean,
Exactly.
mother,
Maybe. There you go.
mother, father.
So they were family to somebody.
Yeah, they were.
So that's what I wanted to give out some details today on a there was a skeleton of a man that was found in rural Lee County off of Broadway Road. The surveyors, remember we talked about last week about how hunters on Thanksgiving and Christmas
Yes.
always find bodies,
Yep.
or surveyors out in the woods getting ready to do some property,
right.
or four-wheelers. That seems to be the three types of people that find the bodies in the woods. So these were a group of surveyors that were doing a job for a new solar farm. You know how I've on my day job I've written about them so many times. Solar
yeah.
farms are really popular nowadays. So
They are.
So they go out to do some survey mapping for they're going to cut some woods down for a new farm. They find a body there in the woods, a skeletonized body. And that was on July 23rd of this year. And the reason why, you think, well, okay, July, August, September, that's not really, is
Where
that really a
was
cold
that?
case? It was in Lee County, in Sanford. So July, August, September, is that really a cold case? Only been a couple months.
Right.
But the thing is they have not been able to figure out how long this person's
Well,
been
it's
there.
getting cold.
Right. So I mean, he could have been there for years.
Yeah.
You know. So that's the thing. So we got a skeleton of a man that so far we talked about all those techniques that they did with the girl up in Northampton last week. We talked about the
Right.
oxygen in the blood and all that stuff. They haven't quite got that far with this gentleman if they do that, but so far from the medical exam, all they know is that he was they believe he was younger than 50 years old. Right, so folks, I'm giving out
Wow.
these details, so if any of this stuff matches anybody that you know or
Yes,
whatever.
because remember, we do cover Fayetteville. I mean, we
Right.
have 19 counties.
Absolutely.
So it's beyond our area.
Plus, when you're dealing with a body being dumped or someone getting in this area on their own and dying, you never know where they
You never
come
know.
from.
So they so many times take them on down the road to
Right.
dump them. So never know where this person.
The funny thing about dumping is, and I'm right about this every time because it happens every time, and that is people always dump a body somewhere they're familiar with. I wrote a story several years ago about a person who killed his girlfriend in Wilmington, and then he drove all the way to Texas, and then he dumped his girlfriend's body behind his grandma's house.
Golly.
There was a girl that was missing, and the law enforcement knew something had happened to her here in Nash County a couple of years ago.
Right.
And they found her body in Momire.
Well,
And I called the sheriff at that, and I said, Sheriff, she's got some family in Momire, right? And he was like, yeah, her grandma. So it's for people always dump a body somewhere they feel
that is
safe.
so weird, but they do in familiar territories.
Yeah, somewhere where they feel like they know who's coming and going. Somewhere where they feel like, I guess in the heat of the moment they think, I can go here, and a lot of times they don't think the connection's going to get back to them. I wrote about Holly Wymick was an Army nurse in Fayetteville, and her husband was a Marine in Jacksonville. And he went up there to Fayetteville. They got in an argument. He killed her in her apartment. He set fire to the apartment building trying to hide that. Drove all the way back to Jacksonville. Chopped his wife up, put her in a shallow grave, set it on fire, trying to burn the evidence. Ended up setting the woods on fire, which attracted the forestry people, which then led to law enforcement involvement. Well, when it all came down to it, the place where he deposited his wife's body was about 3/4 of a mile from his best friend's house.
See, I mean,
It's always
so weird the way that happens.
So I mean, that's one way. I mean, as soon as I find a body, I'd be starting thinking about who, or if law enforcement has a suspect, I'm sure they start thinking about, okay, what's his association to where the body was.
They do.
One thing that's interesting, that's going to be really interesting in the Lindell Kay trial, is I wonder what his association is with that Edgecombe County road.
Oh, yes, that is my main question. What is the association with that place in Leggett or Edgecombe County that body was dumped? I wondered from minute one.
I will stake.
What is the connection?
I will stake my meager reputation, my professional reputation, that he knew that road somehow.
He knew that area somehow. Yeah, it's so weird. We're gonna, hopefully that'll all come out, but
all right,
anyway, and we are gonna do the Lindell Kay coming up. I know we.
I got a date set. I'm gonna give the folks a date soon.
All right. Yeah.
Next week we're gonna announce a date.
There's a lot for us to get together because Lindell did go in search of the file and got it.
Let me show these. There's this body in Sanford was found with this jacket right here. And this pair of shoes that we're going to show in a second. So that's a jacket.
Wow.
So and there's the pair of shoes. They're Croc-like shoes. So if you know anybody, if you saw a homeless guy that in that outfit, or if you know anybody in that outfit or whatever, give local law enforcement a call, or you can call the hotline right there and let us know, because that, like we said, that is somebody's family.
Yeah,
regardless of the circumstances that led them to be in the woods. And there's no indication of anything, because you got a skeleton with a jacket.
Right.
But give law enforcement a call or give the hotline a call, and let's try to figure out who this person is.
And let's recap real quick. Last week, Rocky Mount PD came on, and we had Sammy's. If anybody knows anything about this, Sammy's on the corner of Cokie Road and Old Wilson Road, right there at the railroad track. Sammy was his
nickname. That
was the name that was kept, because Sammy Evans was the one that owned the restaurant before. But anyway, Sammy's. If you know anything about the murder of Sammy, it happened late night, real late night, like 1:40, something like that in the morning. And the police don't say this, but we can, that we heard, way back, or it was speculation that he was.
You tell me. Well, I mean, the theory is that it was a robbery.
Yeah.
But the man had a lot of cash in his pocket.
Well, so the man had a gun. Sammy had a gun, and they said Sammy shot him. They thought it was. Right. Speculation that Sammy shot him, and he could have gone off somewhere, ran off somewhere, and died, or somebody could have thrown him in the car, and whoever was his accessory to the fact.
Well, the hospital is supposed to, anytime someone shows up with a gunshot wound, they're supposed to tell.
Yes.
But there's also ways around that, too.
But anyway, if you know anything about it, somebody knows about that.
Yep.
So if you do, please call the Rocky Mount Police Department. Do the text to tip. Don't call. Do text to tip, or call the hotline 406-6736. Totally anonymous. Don't forget, we have a purse of $15,000, and they're going to talk about that a little bit more with the General coming on, who is president of the Team Cold Case. So you'll learn a little bit more about that if you haven't been watching the show. So anyway, that's all. Okay. We'll be right back right after this.
If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.
There, but he didn't make it into the system somehow.
Can you, yeah.
There's no, I can't, I mean, there's nothing I can do
You
with
can
it
actually send it to WHIG, they can put it up.
now. Is she gonna be able to do that right now? I mean, with all
She
the
probably could have by the.
second break, yeah, you're right. I mean, we're on. How long we been on? Really? Okay, great. Welcome back, folks. You caught us behind the scenes talking about trying to get a map on the air. This is General Gordon Bray. You are the chairman of Team Cold Case,
Yeah.
and we appreciate having you here. And it's always an honor. You always offer such good information. As long as I've been doing this, you sent me a text last week that got me thinking about something I'd never thought about before, and that was when we were talking about the body of the 4-year-old girl that had been found. You said, think about foster families and adoptive families that like you said, it would the family relationship maybe would be looser in that situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's always great to hear from you. So, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about. We had you on, I think, on the second week of the show, and we hadn't really gotten anywhere with the the organization yet, So I was hoping
You've tapped into it really and truly every week. So you talked about what the whole purpose of this show is. Is basically it's a desire ultimately that people who are committing crimes are uncomfortable being in this area. So we call it the rule of law. That's a term, rule of law. And that means because there's never enough police, never enough sheriffs, never enough any kind of a law enforcement agency to control an area. It just isn't. So the way you get that is by people being involved. People who basically, for lack of a better word, they tattle. Right. They make it so that the area is respected, and so cold case is a way of trying to resurrect and make people feel like it doesn't matter how long ago you did something wrong, we're going to try to find you, and we're asking other people to get involved in that process.
Right, because you had said when you were on here before that law enforcement actually aren't the ones who keep the peace, right? It's the
citizenry.
Right. Without citizen support, it's impossible. No matter how many, no matter what you do, it's impossible to keep rule of law unless the citizens believe in that.
Yeah, my thought process for a lot of this comes from combat. I've been in multiple places where we have, the structure of a country gets destroyed in combat. Same thing actually happens when you have a major disaster. I was at Hurricane Andrew as a young major, and it looked like a war zone. I'd been to Somalia before that time, and so and the thing that we did as soldiers is that they executed what's called posse comitatus. That gave us some authorities to interact as soldiers with the civilian population. And of course, we wore red berets and we walked around as a paratrooper, and we started performing those functions. But again, we brought down 3,000 folks, a brigade and some change. But the reality is that really wasn't who was providing the control. It was people telling us, pointing to us. Right. It was people who were volunteering to provide watches, because you don't want a citizen to get involved and put their hands on people because that's dangerous for them, and they're not trained emotionally. They're not trained emotionally. We've got a sign here that says, support your law enforcement. That's the biggest shift that we can make in this country, is making sure that our law enforcement are trained for the psychological component that goes with it. I say this with about 4 family members that wear uniforms. I'm talking close family members, that wear uniforms, and the biggest shift from them was always talking about making sure that you're prepared, because I try to go into an area prepared. You got to make sure you're prepared for the mental ability to control your own emotions, what you're thinking.
Right.
And that's what they have to do. And that's what the rule of law allows us. It says, this is our space. We citizens will actually do the work, but we want you to come in when required. And so Team Cold Case gives the Rocky Mount Corridor, and I'll talk about that later on, the Rocky Mount Corridor, those people in there to say, if you come into our space, you should feel uncomfortable if you're preparing to do something that is wrong, illegal, because this is not what we expect our lives to be.
Right.
Now we've got teams, and you're going to get this. I'm going to do a little bit of a segue here. A while ago in the last segment, I heard you all talk about rumor. Very, very dangerous. It really is, because it does two things. One is it causes a spin up. The second thing is that it can send people down the wrong path. For instance, if a person wasn't shot, they'll be looking for somebody that's wounded, and it may not have ever occurred.
Right.
And that's why the policemen are always pretty specific in what they want to let loose and what really happened.
An example of that is law enforcement is really hesitant to say that a car was a Ford or a Chevy. They'll always say a dark-colored sedan.
Yeah.
And the reason why is, like you said, if they think it was a Ford and they say it was a Ford, then that's all anybody's looking for.
Everybody goes down that path.
Right, they're looking for a Ford. So
Yeah.
you're right. That information, sometimes the information needs to be broader when it's released, because people do tend to, when like you said, they hear one thing and that's all they're looking for. I mean, in the Sammy case, it's been so long, I think everything's been explored at this point, so it's just throwing another possibility out there. But you're right. The people, that case, that guy was so well liked in that neighborhood that it just kind of hurts that somebody hasn't said what happened yet.
Yeah, local store owners and communities they really perform a service that most people forget. And so Sam is probably in that same, I don't know him.
Yeah.
So his store is that, there's a store on the corner of Myrtle and Virginia Street over in Edgecombe, 2 blocks down from my church. And I stopped by to see the gentleman one morning. I told him, I said, thanks for doing what you're doing. And he said, what do you mean? I said, your store, there's not another store for a mile away from you. And there's only one supermarket in the area, which is the Food Line, of almost maybe 2 miles away. And so when they have these stores, these people they're open. They know that they are susceptible to people who don't respect the fact that they make 4 cents probably profit on each item. 4 cents. And how do I know that? Because my dad ran when we retired. But those corner stores, those are big deals. And so, when you lose somebody like that, it should hurt, and the community should step up and say, I saw.
Right.
This is what I saw. And again, the same thing we said here is, if you're out there and you think you want to support, do not speculate. If you say, I saw a person and it was dark, I couldn't see, and you don't know his height, look at something that you do know, like a tree, a notch on a tree or a car, and say, I don't know how tall he was, but from where I was, he was about a foot taller than the car that passed. That becomes more specific to an investigator.
Right.
So they can build a real case. Otherwise, they'll do the same thing.
That's why they have those little rulers on the side of doors. Obviously, so when someone comes out, even if the clerk can't tell, the video camera maybe can
tell you, and they ain't gonna get it right. Yeah.
So we have so the group, the team, I guess we want to call it, has come together. We've had a couple of meetings.
Yep.
We've had our law enforcement involved from Nash, Edgecombe, and Rocky Mount.
And Wilson is now providing input indirectly through the Rocky Mount team, because they do have obviously a relationship, and they'll actually have a seat at some point, because that's, Rocky Mount puts a little sign up here. I don't know if you can see this or not, but this shows you if you can zoom in, this is the Rocky Mount sits right over here, and this is the central part of the corridor. Wilson County sits right here. Now, if you looked at this and you went off to your west, I think I'm saying it right here, to your west from here, this is the highways that takes you all the way out to the Virginia Beach area, and then of course you go the other direction, you're going toward Raleigh, and then you go north. You got everybody going north that's coming from all those major cities.
That's right.
And then to the south, you got everybody coming from or to Miami and all those major cities.
Right.
So this is the corridor, and we are focused on the Rocky Mount area, but the corridor is like you talked about Sanford. If you go to the south and to the southwest, Sanford comes up from places like Fort Bragg, which is right on that corridor. So we get focused on some of those kinds of issues. Well, the core of our team, if you will, and I don't know if I won't say the names, but there's a specific representative from off of the Nash County of the Nash County Sheriff's Office. Mm-hmm. There's a specific rep from the Edgecombe County Sheriff's Office, and then there is a specific rep from the Rocky Mount Police Force. And then they have two citizens, each one with two citizens, who actually contribute to us from a perspective of the communities in this board.
Right.
And what I'll do later on is, once we get everybody's permission to air their names, we'll do that. We'll let you know, because they're kind of letting us know from a non-legal perspective what they are thinking, what they're concerned about.
And I think I've been involved with some Crime Stopper programs and other programs like that. And what is unique, I think, there's a lot unique about the cold case team. But I mean, one of the things is that law enforcement are actually members of the board, rather than just reporting to the board. I mean, I think this speaks to the long-term possibilities. Yeah. And one thing I was really, this board coming together wasn't my idea. I mean, it happened, some concerned businessmen got together and stuff. But my hope is that this continues well into the future, and that it's successful enough that it doesn't need me or WHIG or anybody else involved, that it stands on its own, and that people, once we have one or two successes, which I think, just
we're knocking at the door now.
Right. Yeah. Just statistically, something's going to happen. So once that does, and we can begin to have more support from the community and more recognition, and I think this is something that can last a long time.
Yeah. Well, the idea is that there's been a certain amount of money, a little more than $15,000, that's been allocated by local business people to help us try to incentivize people who know something to bring forward. And of course, we make that money available to anyone that can help us get charges.
Right.
Because conviction takes a long time.
It takes a couple of years.
But charges and our goal is to turn around, and once the person's charged, within 2 weeks to get the money to the people
anonymously too.
Anonymously, so that whatever dollar figure it is, they don't have to pay the taxes on it.
Right.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. Right.
So this is the real goal again is not to try to create vigilantes, not do anything else, but in fact to try to get citizens, so that we're talking again, and to make people uncomfortable being bad.
I like that.
In the Rocky Mount corridor.
I like that. The U.S. Attorney for this area was here a couple weeks ago, and that's why I showed his entire the portion of the press release where he was naming all the names and saying what they were, most of them convicted of or pled guilty to, and that I like that. People should be uncomfortable committing crimes.
Well, that's the real goal. And there's a linkage usually between murder, sex, drugs, booze. All those things kind of work together, and so when you got the state attorney and the crew coming down they're showing you the connection both of sharing of information and also the connections of the crimes as they go forward. Well, I know it's time for us to try to make a little money, so
yes, sir.
Take a break.
We'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you, sir. We'll try not to be on the air when we get back.
It's okay. This is our community. They'll listen in.
If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.
Welcome back, folks. Thank you, Fred, for the weather. I wanted to point out this sticker that the General mentioned earlier. It was dropped off by Elaine Wordsworth. She's a big supporter and police booster and a fan of the show, and she just wanted us to put that there. I think that's very apropos.
Well, what we do, this is, again, there's for some reason there's a movement afoot among some folks that think that supporting law enforcement
is bad.
Well, not bad. They think it's oppositional.
Right.
The reality is that I did a show with Los Angeles about a month ago, and I had a guy named Big Eugene. He's actually just out of jail. He was the leader of the Crips, one of the nation's largest. And I asked him very point blank. He said, "I'm going to tell you, anybody that's talking about removing police is crazy." He says, because the last thing I want is quote unquote my homies coming in to try to police because they got a position. And that's why I'm adamant in saying the only thing that really needs to happen is that those folks that put their lives on the line, I want them to go home at night too. But I want to make sure they come in with the mindset of the business that they're doing. They're dealing with people. And so talking to Clee and talking to Clee Atkinson of Edgecombe and talking to Sheriff Stone from Nash, and of course talking to George Robinson in Rocky Mount, one of our real goals is absolutely to make sure that, one, we help establish that there's a relationship, because we want that rule of law to work. We want people to trust that when somebody comes in your area, he's coming in to help, not himself, but to help you. And really and truly, there's a hats off that needs to kind of go to our local law enforcement, especially because during all these challenging times of what I call one of the two pandemics, these guys have done a very good job of keeping that relationship between the citizenry and the law enforcement.
I worked in the housing authority several years ago, and my boss was a retired deputy sheriff. And we got to talking one day we were talking about plumbing. And he said that plumbers are a lot like in situations like law enforcement, because sometimes you only see them when something bad happens. So then you begin to associate law enforcement with bad, when actually they do so much more than just enforce the law. I mean, the community building that they do. I live in Spring Hope. the police down there, they have ice cream trucks in the neighborhood quite often. They pay for it out of their own pocket. You know, I mean, they do. There's a lot of things that go on that law enforcement does other than chase bad guys.
Yeah, that's building that relationship so that when they do come in the area, there's a, you know, and that people are comfortable talking to them. And there's a lot of places where that relationship doesn't exist because they haven't done the homework. You know, if you ever notice, no one ever jumps at the firemen, because firemen do 90% of their work away from fires. They're EMTs. They're coming into the area. They're helping quell, they support other emergencies, and you see them in a different light. Girls like to look at them and say that they look, you know, I shouldn't say girls, but people look at each other because they're fit.
Right.
For the most part, and you see.
For the most part. I've seen a few firemen that look like me. Come on.
There's you know, but the reality is that, you know, there's a test. I went down and actually watched the firemen do some of their periodic fitness training. And you know that place that floods half the time off Atlantic Avenue?
Right.
They're down there on those Saturday mornings, and you watch them have to go ahead and climb the steps, run up the steps, carry a body down the steps, drag somebody across the field. And so they work out for that. And again, and like I was telling them when they're out there, I said, he said, what do you think? I said, actually, I expect this. They said, what? I said, because what I don't want to see is when time for you to do this, it's not ready. But anyhow,
yeah, right.
So we digress, folks. You got to forgive me, I'm gonna run my mouth. But this is the cold case, and this is about us being part of your community, and the team that we've put together that actually helps support what you see on the TV show. This is kind of the end product, if you will. What happens here on the show. We're the board that we have is supported by citizens to put money forward to be able to assist and incentivize citizens to make sure that no one's death or no one who is absent from their loved ones' lives are forgotten.
Right.
You know, this is Rocky Mount, the Rocky Mount corridor's way of saying no man is left behind.
Right. And the corridor.
Or person left behind.
Sure. The corridor. You know, I believe before you had defined it as east, west, north, south from Rocky Mount. Yeah. And Rocky Mount has a lot of major highways coming through. It has obviously 95.
Yep.
We've got US 64 coming through.
Well, 87 now.
Right. You're right. Interstate 87.
Yeah.
We also have 301.
Yes.
Which is a heavily traveled road.
Absolutely.
Comes through Rocky Mount.
43.
Yeah, right.
42. 58.
56.
Yes, right.
56 too. So I mean, there are a lot of ways in and out of Rocky Mount.
And we also have the railroad.
That's right.
Because people get off and get on, and a lot of folks travel. See, and what happens is all the truck stops. You know, there's the famous Rocky Mount 10, when nobody was from Rocky Mount, but there are folks who were solicited up and down, and they were murdered at that time.
Right.
So we want to make sure that everybody knows that Rocky Mount's a great place to live. And to do that, people have got to step up, participate, and say, I'm not going to tolerate it. And you know, and again, on that other side of the coin, whoever it is that is lost, somebody careful. I don't care if they were the worst drug dealer in the world that passed, or the worst murderer that was murdered by somebody else. While that sounds good, there was a mother, a sister, brother, father that still wanted to know what happened to them.
That's right. A victim is a victim.
You got to close it. And by the way, we don't know why. You know, they could be innocent, as we believe Sammy was. They could be innocent.
Right.
And we want to make sure that, you know, or in the case of the gentleman that up in the northeast corner by the malls, what's his name? I forgot his name.
Where?
The corners. I'm spazzing. Up by the past Walmart, that area. Gentleman that was murdered.
Mr. Cobb.
Mr. Cobb.
Yeah.
Corners.
Okay. You're right, and I'm glad you associated with that, because his family owns that area. So everybody in Rocky Mountain is been touched by this person.
You know him, whether you know him or not. But and so because he still interacted. See, some people can become hermits. They try to, once they make a certain amount of money, they quit interacting with the community. But so that person still contributed, still gave, and then he disappears. And it's unfair to not know or to bring whomever it was to justice.
Right.
For whatever reason.
And in his case, I like to point out that he had a lot of real estate dealings, but he rented houses, but it was to people in the area that he lived in. He wasn't a slumlord. He didn't own a whole bunch of properties on the outside of town, on the edge of town. He rented to, I'd say 90% of people that he rented to owned homes in his neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like you said. He was very active in his neighborhood, in his church. He was a commissioner. This was a guy that certainly was very active in the community. And I think we're going to find out what happened to him. They've got some DNA in the lab. I don't know why that stuff can't move faster than it does. But.
Well, we talked about this at the end of the day. We talked about getting somebody charged. The district attorney it's a saying, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Right.
And so that part of proof has got to be tight, because the last thing you want, the most famous case I know in my life that I thought was just a travesty was where a defense attorney was able to bring up enough information to create doubt, and that's the OJ case, whereby the information that was there, and I think at this point in time, even though they still don't have all the pieces to prove, they didn't build the case strongly enough so that when it went to court, by the way, you can't be tried but one time.
Right.
You better get it right.
Well, they did in civil court find that he was.
But the civil court
just
all they did was prove was causality.
Right.
And not and so that was and that was still just
better than nothing. I said, defense attorneys are really good. I covered a case many years ago where a lady claimed that she was raped on a hiking trail, and the defense attorney got her to admit that she smoked a cigarette with the man afterwards. So then, in closing arguments, he said, "Look, she enjoyed a cigarette after sex. Does that sound like something that a woman who had been raped would do?" And the jury found the guy not guilty. Although all the evidence stacked up against him, the fact that this defense attorney was able to defend his client, and I'm not saying that it was wrong. I'm saying that everybody deserves the best defense that they can get. So this guy did his client really good that day, So that's it's already done. I don't understand. It seems like the first 10 or 15 minutes of the show lasts forever, and I'm like, oh my God, I've got a whole nother, what am I gonna do with the other 30 minutes? I get nervous, and then I get to talking and get interested, and then the show's over. So we got to have you back again, General. And this time, I promise you, the next time you come back, there will be a map. I will have a map back here that shows Rocky Mountain at the center with the corridors on both sides. Because Rocky Mountain really is the center of a lot of commerce and transportation in this area.
Yeah, but what I would tell everybody is this: is first of all, this really is not a WHIG show. It is your show. It is your show for you to try to close up and reach back. And again, big stamp, put it on your forehead if you have to. It's rule of law. You are the ones who are responsible for keeping law and order in your community, in our community. And then let's try to treat every person that, especially the ones that we know from this area, so they're not forgotten. And if you have the misfortune of knowing somebody who's lost someone, as in the case of George Robinson, you want to help them. And this is your show to help do that, and you get incentivized by a little bit of change. Never enough, but it's more than nothing. So thank you, and thank you
Yes,
for
sir.
having me. I
Thank you,
appreciate
General. Appreciate it. Thank you, folks.
If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.